I am begging for a pagan. We have Valiant Low Key in the chat tonight. We have Viper Styles, checks my pulse. Welcome in. We have Philly84. We had RH Max here earlier. Shout out to you gentlemen in the chat. The show will begin shortly. Hex Wizard 369 enters the chat. Peg me, Dad. One man saying that is fine. If that's your opinion and you're not in it, that's fine. But there is an entire market of millions and millions of people that agree that it is a store of value. So, you can think one thing, but there's also a market, and markets tend to become efficient over time.
We do know that you will always get paid in Hex on a daily basis. And that is truly the miracle that we call Hex, because it is trustless interest, trustless yield. Nothing will stop that contract from running.
Checks my balls.
Welcome in, everybody, to the Creed of Crypto. My name is Bacon Bits Boy Crypto. I have here with me, as always, my friend and co-host, Crypto Ewok. Welcome in to everybody in the chat. We got a lively chat tonight. There was people mixing it up before we're sitting back here in a green room just scratching our butts, and there's people in here hanging out for the last hour. So we got Destroyer 1911 in here, Hex Girl, Viper Styles, Checks My Pulse, Hex Wizard, Philly 84, Carol Tender. Did I miss anybody else? Hex Wizard, I think I said. And to kick it all off earlier was RH Max was here like an hour ago, just all by himself hanging out. So welcome to you guys in the chat. We got a big show for you tonight. We are going to discuss a little bit of a crypto move up, things pumping a little bit. Is this simply another fake out and another bull trap? Where are we headed the rest of this year? The same thing we've been talking about in circles for the last couple of years now. It's just, unable to figure out what kind of time frame we're on, what kind of cycle we are on, what the cycles even are, why Bitcoin is rolling all allegedly, and where we're going to go from here. But a lot of cool updates when it comes to Pulse Chain. We have a live ProveX site to talk about basically people's sacrifices and see what you can find in there. No claiming, nothing's actually going on with the airdrop or anything yet. The token is not live, but it is picking up steam. We got a lot of things going on here. So really big show tonight. Excited to talk to you guys. I guess we're having a little bit of a trouble streaming on Twitter, you said, Ewok. But how are you this evening? And let us know what's going on there.
Yeah, no, I'm good. For some reason it says there's an error that occurred. Wait a moment, try again. And I keep hitting the go live on there, but it's not. So okay. We're here on YouTube anyway, like normal. And everything's going well. Like I said, just kind of biding our time, right? There's nothing new really going on. Prices kind of popping back and forth, doing a little bit of of a dance and making us wonder, is it really bear market? Is this really just kind of a pause? What's going on? What's the time frame? And yeah, but other than that, just living day to day, busy with work, real job stuff, and can't complain.
Yeah. Yep. I agree. It's the time to kind of work hard. You messaged me. We had a nice message from our friend Frank Molina just a couple of days ago on his DeFi Capital channel. Haven't seen him for a while, but just generally echoing the same bullish sentiment that he has. Nothing's really changed for him, but he was talking about, trying to build, make money, whatever you can do in times like these, which, I mean, we've been in times like these for the last 4 years, really. So, yeah, it's just a matter of keeping your head on a swivel and trying not to sit on your hands, just simply waiting for this to go up and generating all that you can, whether it be through your job, through getting a promotion, through working overtime, picking up something on the side. We're not saying that you need to take like uber risk and start your own company, whatever it is for you. I think there's like so much in the world where people try to fit you into a box that you've got to do this, you've got to do that. What is it that you're talented at, that you can expand upon and make work in your own life to try to get yourself some more income if you want to DCA into these prices over the next few years, whatever that is for you. And I think that you should feel good about what it is you're doing as best you can and try to, grind a little bit here and there while still keeping your mentals in order and not killing yourself over it, obviously. So It's been a tough last few years, but yeah, I know. And it could just be this too. It could just be like us commiserating here once a week, like talking. I mean, when I was down a couple of weeks ago, you made a good point to me, Ewok, about like getting on stream and being with some like-minded individuals like really does help. And it's true. I mean, just us engaging and having this space here is awesome. So love all of you guys here in the chat. So welcome in. Tam, welcome to you. Always spreading the love, of course. So thank you all for being here this evening. But taking a look at Bitcoin and Ethereum right now. So again, we have had a little bit of a move up and some interesting macro stuff, news, whatever. The numbers are probably manipulated, I'm sure. Over the last few days, we had CPI data come in today. The inflation staying exactly where it was, actually at 2.4%. We'll get into that and some horrible jobs report that came out last week. But as horrible as that news apparently was, Bitcoin does start to move up over 70K now. We have been staying right around this area, which of course was the all-time high from the last cycle. Basically 69K and change was the high from 2021. But yeah, we've been hanging between what? I mean, I know we went down, wicked to the high 50s there a few weeks back, but I mean, we've been really between 65 to 72-ish here over the last couple of weeks, which is a good area to consolidate in. You can see a lot of action there just in this area over the last couple of weeks. We have ETH at 2062 right now, so its ratio to BTC hanging out right below that 0.03 number. But interesting to see this consolidation here, and I tell you, usually chop up in the middle is where everybody, the traders really get messed up, obviously. And everybody just is, as it's been for a while, completely at odds. I mean, what's going to happen here? Have we already hit a bottom for this year? Obviously, those of us that are gun shy over the last few years are pretty hesitant to say that. We have PTSD from everything that's gone on. But, I would say, I don't know if it's the most people, but it seems to me that the market sentiment is we are in a bear market. Q4 of 2026 is when you'll see the low and all these things. So what do you make of this recent price action, Ewok? We've been consolidating here for a while. Do you think a bottom could be in? I would not be very high in confidence saying that, but yeah, what do you make of where we're at right now?
Well, first of all, your mic is a little muffled. I don't know if something's going on, but either way, I'll give my opinion here while you're looking at that. Usually, if there is a pullback, it goes fairly far below the previous all-time high. So this range being, right where it was back at the previous all-time high, which would have been 69,000, leads me to believe that if we are going down, there's further to go. This chop consolidation, it'll be a good test kind of determination whether if it does start to go back up and if we eclipse this 97,000, then this was it, and it was just the Elliott wave kind of formation. As it goes up, it comes down, it goes up again, and up even further, meaning that this isn't really the 4-year cycle in bear market like everyone thinks it is. Now, if it, if we bounce off this support here again, where we, can't really get out of here, and it keeps trying, if we can't get back to 74, 75, then it's likely to go even further. So, I mean, I think those are the key numbers that we really have to keep an eye on, right? As it chops sideways, that's kind of what I was getting at. It's just been a sideways chop. We can even look at Ethereum doing a very similar thing. Now, here's the weird thing. Ethereum, we hit an all-time high for 2 hours. So I wouldn't even really constitute that as an all-time high. It made it back there, but it did more of a double top than anything. So Ethereum's just been really out of whack as far as that goes. But again, I think Bitcoin's going to be the determining factor, only because it ran harder this time. We had the all-time high even before the halving. So again, just strange things that don't line this up with other previous cycles. I can't think that it didn't even get a 2x this time around to believe that it's over. I still think that the rest of this year could be very, very good. Now, there's a lot of things with Congress that are happening. You got the Clarity Act that's still not passed, and banks are really fighting it. We'll get into that a little bit later. They are fighting tooth and nail because I think they believe that they will lose their livelihood and their all-time profit making and all of that other good stuff once people realize how much they've been getting screwed over time. So that's where I think we are. We can take a look at gold too, because gold is kind of important at the same time, and you look like it's still on an uptrend, even though it's had a correction and pulled back. There is still strength here. These corrections and this basically up only, other than the pullback that we saw there at the end of January, beginning February, which was again, another anomaly that just things don't happen this coordinated this well without some severe manipulation. So I believe the institutions are still filling bags, trying to get more. Just in case. I don't think it's the banks. I think it's other, big investors that are doing this. But that's where we're at. And like I said, with Bitcoin, there's some key levels here. I think we really have to watch out for the 74 to 75. If we can get through that, keep going, then I don't think this is a more of a Elliott wave type thing. If it drops below the 64, 65, then we're definitely going lower. So my 2 cents.
How am I sounding now? Check 1 2.
Much
check
better.
Okay, cool.
Good.
It's the beard. I would grow the beard out a little bit. So
Right.
what was I going to? Oh, on the gold point, let me ask you this, because I've seen a couple people bring this up recently. Is do you think some of the action that we've seen from gold, I mean, you already talked about manipulation and stuff, but obviously gold and silver had these epic runs up here over the last couple of months, the trading like a altcoin basically. What do you make of like insiders knowing that the war was imminent, that this was coming, and that being a cause for it starting to move up before the manipulated crash back down? Because I've heard a lot of growing sentiment about that media knew, like a lot of people knew about it, weren't reporting on it, and that could be a factor in why it pumped up so much.
Well, I mean, I guess it could be a factor. How many insiders? Trump has been pretty good about not letting the cat out of the bag too early. I mean, obviously there's insiders. This started way back in August. I mean, this run up, I don't think it really had anything to do with war. I think what it had to do with was people not feeling safe with the current economy, and moving more to hard money. People have always said gold will always be there. Gold will be the strongest asset. And I think this completely shows that sentiment. And, obviously when it ran up too hard, I know there were banks that were leveraged the wrong way. Silver was one of them. I think 70, whatever. There was a number, I forget what it was. I think if they got over $88, they had more paper silver than what they had that they should have, and were in jeopardy of, if people were to cash out, it would have created a terrible run that they just couldn't cover. So something had to be done. And I think that's what a lot of this had to do with, because it did pull back into the 70s at one point, and now we're back up to 85, which is a much more manageable level. But when it was running, it ran through those 70, 75, 80 there, and got all the way to 120. And again, it was a very dangerous spot for the banks to be in that had, basically the paper silver, where they were, trading things that they didn't have. So it was very, very dangerous.
Yeah. And a couple other macro points I just want to hit real quick, and then we'll kind of go over to the pulse chain stuff. But, we've seen some crazy stuff happen. So since last week, here are the things that have happened. So a jobs report came out last week. I think it was the end of the week, Thursday or Friday, but it was way, way, way worse than expected. It was on Friday and kind of pulled the market back down. Of course, we've kind of already recovered that move from what I can see, because I think we went back down to 65K on it basically. But I think it was a loss of like 92,000 jobs or something. I remember the number 92. And against an expected large gain that they thought was going to happen, or a nominal gain anyway. So it was a huge loss. All of these numbers on these types of reports, I mean, we know are in some way likely manipulated at one time or another. I mean, that's just the way it is. And that's in the Democratic or Republican direction, I think, no matter who is in office. So we get this bad report last week, takes the market down with it. We've bounced back up really. But that, in addition to maybe even, I don't know, maybe bigger news today, CPI data comes in, which of course is the core inflation, and inflation apparently stays the same. Again, who knows how much these numbers are fudged, but it stays the same at 2.4%, which is also what the expectation was. So that's probably why we didn't see like massive volatility to one direction or the other today. But interesting that inflation is staying the same. Obviously, Jerome Powell has not been cutting rates. And next week is the next FOMC. I believe it's a week from today, Tuesday, Wednesday next week or something like that. So, and I think it's going to be Powell's last hurrah, if I'm not mistaken. I think it would be his last FOMC, because I believe in May is the next one. I believe. And then that would be Kevin Warsh by that point. So yeah, trying to get that lined up. So yeah, what do you make of this? Because, a couple of things, we're very, and then the other thing I didn't even mention, it was oil, of course, spiking up because of the war. So oil goes to what, $120 or something like that, comes back down to 80 something. So everybody's panicking about it. It comes back down. We're seeing it reflected in the gas prices, of course, here in the States. We have all these insane macro things going up, down, this way, that way, up my butt, out my mouth, all these things. And you're trying to make sense of it. And it's like, okay, what direction, like, is the Fed going to go as a result of all this? Because, while this indicator looks good, this indicator looks bad, it's just this confluence of so many things where some people can just take it and run with a bear thesis, a bull thesis, but things are just all over the place seemingly. So yeah, what do you make? And I'm just throwing the kitchen sink at you, but what do you make of any of these issues?
Well, I make total uncertainty. I mean, that's ultimately what you have, right? Everywhere. And I think that's why you're seeing the prices do things that are crazy. So before, right when the war started, everybody started speculating on oil. Well, the price is going to go up. The Hormuz, or whatever it is, the Strait was closed down for a while. And, immediately, who was it? Lloyd's of London, I believe, is one of the biggest insurers of the tankers that go through there. They get travel insurance to travel through these straits. They stopped insuring people. I know there was Trump or somebody put something out and said, we're going to cover everything that, at the same rate or lower. I know, again, it was Lloyd's of London. They jacked the prices up and then made everything so unaffordable. They were taking advantage of it. Trump came in and said, no, we're going to insure it for the same of what they did. And I think that had a lot to do with the oil price that skyrocketed. People were trying to front run it because they thought there was going to be problems. And then when there wasn't, came back down. So it's just uncertainty everywhere. And I think people, again, trying to front run things that aren't really there or aren't as impacted the way people thought they would be, right? So the same with the interest rates. I really don't think they're going to be a change. I don't think Powell will do anything because the jobs market. I think you were right. It was 90. I think it was 92,000 jobs that they said were lost. Again, how true are these numbers? How many of them are government jobs? I know at one point when there was so much waste and Doge was in there trying to clean stuff up, a lot of the jobs that were lost were government jobs that were wasteful. So, while jobs were down, it was a good thing because of the situation that it was. So, you can never read these straightforward with what they're telling you without digging a little bit deeper and finding out which sector are they in, which one is most affected. Are there an increase or a lessening of government jobs that were just paying way too much money, and an increase of other jobs that where they should be? So it's very hard. It's a tough thing. Again, I don't think the rates will change at this meeting, and I don't believe. Is there not an April meeting?
I was just going to start pulling that up as you were speaking. It's either going to be the end of April or mid-May, usually with how they do things. It's like 6 to 8 weeks.
So again, I don't think Powell does anything at this point to rock the boat. I think they just keep it the same because of war, because of uncertainty in a lot of the markets. They stopped a lot of the tariffs, or they tried to put a halt to it. I think there was a loophole found that they kept it going for just in different terminology. So yeah, I see it staying the same. I really don't see a change until things kind of even out, at least get a little bit more settled.
Yeah, so I was wrong earlier. So there is an FOMC the end of April, the April 28th and 29th. So that would be Powell's final stand. Then the next one's not till mid-June, and that would be Kevin Warsh definitely by that point. So
there you go.
Yeah, so I'm with you. I mean, I wanted to see like what the expectations were of a rate cut because they usually have.
I'm sure there's a poly market.
Well, there's Polymarket, but then there's also there's literally a site just dedicated to it also, though.
Is that the sentiment?
Yeah. No, it's the CME Group FedWatch thing. They always have the chances of
right, but it's more sentiment. It's the odds of it happening, and they rank it 85% to 15 or whatever.
Essentially, yeah. It's taking me too long to figure it out. But it says like 99% no change. So never mind. Yeah. Nobody is assuming any change is going to happen. So and it would stand to reason that there probably won't be one in another 6 weeks either, with it being Powell on his way out. So we shall see. But a lot of interesting things going on at once here. And it's just probably going to take some time to shake itself out. And that's kind of why we're, just slowly DCAing here and there along the way. So speaking of DCAing, we will get to Pulse Chain now. So shout out everybody in the chat. We appreciate you guys being here tonight. Very active tonight. Awesome to have you here. X, for some reason, not allowing the live stream to go over. So sorry for anybody that is commenting there. I don't know what's going on there, but appreciate all of you guys on YouTube. And let's check out the Pulse Chain ecosystem. So I have a couple interesting notes here with what we've seen out of Pulse Chain over the last week, especially for when we did start to see some short-term volatility to the downside around that jobs report, where Bitcoin did go back towards 65K. ETH almost got into the 1800s. Maybe it even did for a moment, and I don't remember. But usually, of course, when you see that kind of sharp downside to Bitcoin and Ethereum, I mean, as we all know, you are going to see a much sharper move down in altcoins. We've seen how Pulse Chain reacts to Ethereum getting to those yucky prices, obviously. I mean, ETH has been, even recently into the 1800s, maybe even 1700s, whenever things have gotten really bad over the last month or so. But I found it really interesting. Maybe I'm just jinxing it by even talking about it, but I did notice as things moved down here with Bitcoin and ETH over the last week, Pulse Chain's been sticking at this 10 number basically. So, now we've pulled back over the last day, but still it's stayed up over this 40102 basically where we're at right now. It has stayed over whatever you want to call this, the 90% off SAC rate. I don't know what we would call this, but yeah, basically 10x from SAC. We've basically, it seems like almost there's been it's surprised me, honestly, because when we saw this sharp drip down from Bitcoin and Ethereum over last week, we did not see Pulse add another zero back on, which I was just very surprised by. And then it got me into my conspiratorial mind about how we saw a certain individual named Richard talking about, different ways of liquidity and things like that. And, when does the bleeding stop and all that stuff? I don't know. I have no idea what's going on, but it's just interesting that we didn't see it go back down below there. Who knows? Maybe in a couple of days, we'll just go right back under. We're already close to it again, but it's been interesting that it's been staying above that rate to me. So we have Pulse there. We have Pulse X at 507384. We have Ink right now at just about 45 cents. We have Hex at 0019 and EHEX 306741. We talked about last week how EHEX had kind of closed the gap against Hex a little bit, but Hex actually over the last week I've seen has been up more than anything. Yeah, if you click that, the 7-day. I think
this is the 7-day.
Maybe it was more than that then. Maybe 30 days, but I saw that Hex was the up 20%. Yeah, there you go. So the last month, basically, Hex has been up 9% and the rest of the ecosystem red, actually. So that's been kind of interesting to see. So what do you make of what I let off with there, though? I'm just surprised when we see ETH dip down, 1900, 1800, and then Pulse stayed above that 10 number. I was kind of surprised by that. So I don't know, maybe just short-term price action, but I thought it was interesting that it didn't go below again.
Yeah, well, we know there was a statement out there that, suggested people may roll their liquidity into a stable coin rather than tied to other things. I think that has happened. I'm pretty sure I saw somewhere there was a somewhat large entity that was putting in liquidity versus USDC instead of everything against Pulse. So I think that is a contributing factor. I also think that, as time goes on, this will kind of decorrelate a little bit. You can only drop so far. I mean, so let's take a look at the actual Pulse chart. And well, actually, before we do that, I do want to note that the fear and greed has come up. Normally we look at it, I think last week we were right around 15. We're sitting at 27 now. So that is important because the sentiment is, coming back a little bit. But anyway, we did cross the level that I had drawn on here a little bit, but it's pulled back. So another, again, very critical. We could do something very similar that we did in January where it crossed that trend line and then continued to fall. So again, we are sitting essentially right on the trend line right now. So, while there was a little bit of strength, everything in the ecosystem had green candles there for a while, got a nice little run. Now we'll see how many people have decided that they're going to hold on rather than just continue to dump. I think there was a big Hex dumper earlier today as well. And I think the other big entity that we talk about that had a lot of Pulse is slowly running out or slowing down anyway on their dumping. So all of those things combined, it is strength. But again, when will people value this? Will they value it, or will we just continue to go down? Like you said, we've been holding on to that 4010 area pretty solidly. For the last, I guess, almost week or so, it's been chopping around in that area.
While Ethereum went down, that was kind of my point.
Right. So that has shown some strength. So there has been some good buys in here, which is definitely holding it up. There's definitely some money coming into the ecosystem. We saw, starting on March 1st, basically, the whole way. I mean, there was a pullback here, but for the most part, a lot more buys than sells. So that is a good thing. But again, when the price goes up, crosses the trend line, can it stay? Can it sustain it? That's the thing that we just haven't seen yet. And every time it approaches it, it gets knocked back down. So I don't know. We're at a very critical part here, a critical point, I guess I should say. And you keep an eye on it. And if it goes lower, then again, DCA at will, or just hold off, because again, this trend has not changed. I wouldn't really risk doing a whole lot until we know for sure. Is it going to cross over and continue? Or are we going to go even lower, which you'll get a better rate of, buy-in at that point. So yeah.
I guess maybe you just answered my question, but yeah, let me ask you that, because we saw, I forget who it was in the chat last week, but there were some Chads talking about, these $5,000 buys they put in a couple of weeks ago and stuff like that at basically the all-time lows, like at 5 zeros and an 8 and stuff like that. I'm curious your thoughts, like what would the reversal be for you? Like at what point would you feel comfortable? Like, let's just say that you've been sitting on cash because you're just, you're gun shy, as I mentioned, because of these last few years. You have PTSD. You don't want to ape into the ecosystem, or I mean anything in crypto, because you're like, Jesus, what if it's just I'm going to catch a falling knife again or whatever. Where would you, say you have, we'll just say thousands, whatever, on the side somewhere that you would like to put into crypto? I mean, looking at Pulse Chain, what do you want to see where you're like, all right, not that I'm going to ape it all at one price. That's always a stupid idea. But where would I start aggressively being like, we're in an uptrend now. Like, what do you want to see recaptured here? Because, like, is it the whole way up at the previous all-time low, like from 2023, which was 4 zeros and a 3 or something like that? Where is it that you would be like, all right, we're in an uptrend? Or is it even the Pulse Chain chart at all? Is it more something you want to see out of Ethereum? Like, I know 2150 has been a key number for Ethereum, but I mean, you want to probably see a claim of at least $3,000 before you think maybe we're in a bull trend again there. So I don't know. Where would you have more confidence in that?
Yeah, I think it's a combination. I don't think it's a certain point here, because we know there are still some big bag holders out there that have dumped this whole time. I don't think they would hesitate if it got up to the 4 zeros and a 3, even so 3x where we are here. There's also traders too. I wouldn't be surprised if they wouldn't take profits too. But you've got to look at it as, I remember the last cycle or the first cycle for Hex, when it would run and it would do a 60% pullback and people would get defeated, and then it would go on and run up again and do a 40% pullback, and then it would run again. I mean, we doubled within a very, very short period of time. Now the ecosystem has totally changed. There's a lot more things holding it down. It's a lot harder to do that, and there are a lot more players out there with big bags. So I think, to your question, I would love to see us get back up into at least this area, about the 4 zeros and a 2, along with Ethereum starting to run, and positive price pressure from that side as well. I think the combination of several things would kind of confirm it for me. Obviously, if there's a God whale type candle, things are going to be very exciting, right? And they happen quickly. Usually, if a big buyer comes in and dumps a bunch of money to see what happens, it causes a chain reaction. It causes other people to buy and sustain some of that dumping. So I don't think it's going to be. I don't think we're going to see just a steady, slow run up, because I think that tends to get knocked down faster than if we were to see a God whale type candle. And that says we're on. This is it, and it's time to get in. And I think that would in itself cause a lot of people to either consider jumping back in that have sold, or people to maybe hold on a little bit to see what comes of it. So I think it does two things. It gets people in and it gets people to hold at the same time. So again, I would like to see a combination of several things, and getting back into this, like I said, even the 4 zeros and a 2, which is double from here, between that and even 4 zeros and a 3.
Yeah.
So I think that's a very critical area to get back to, and then you're at a third of sack rate basically. So
right,
that's what I'm kind of thinking, to validate it, to say, all right, it's time to go all in or back in, or if you're sitting on cash, if you're afraid to buy these levels, I mean, ultimately, like you said, you buy now. If it does get to that level, you've already 3 extra money.
Mm-hmm.
So, but that's a tough thing for people that have been DCAing the whole way down. You feel like you're just constantly catching a falling knife, and it's tough. It takes definite dedication and belief in the system. And, I've seen some people in this chat earlier that clearly said, we've been doing this for 5 years and we're mentally ill at this point by believing that anything can happen. But I still have faith, and I know many of the other people in the chat do too.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think I guess the answer to the question is just, if you are sitting on cash like that, it checks my pulse said it perfectly in the chat a minute ago. I mean, yeah, DCAing is just the way. So even if it's like a forced DCA, I mean, if you have all that cash and you just think these prices are too juicy, just try to be disciplined to where, this is my plan. Maybe this is my plan for the rest of 2026, since there are, at the very least, there's equal number of people that think Bitcoin's at new alt or, the bear market low, apparently, in Q4 of this year. Well, plan for that and plan for not that, and just DCA, an equal amount weekly, bi-weekly, basically, wherever you want to, because then at the very least, then you're going to be wrong, you're going to be right, but it's not going to be so impactful because you tried to buy all at one time or something like that, and, keep in mind too, I mean, a lot of us messed up by buying the top of previous cycles, as long as you can mess up kind of in either direction, but as long as you're buying cheaper than you initially bought for, then you're helping yourself out. So I think just a disciplined DCA, even if you have the cash sitting there. Yeah.
Viper Styles, I love buying bottoms. It's just it's tough to hit. I actually did hit the bottom day in Hex during the adoption amplifier. I bought on day 33, so I did luck out there. Wasn't a whole lot, but it was enough to make a huge difference. So.
Well, Viper Styles is banging these bottoms right now. Apocalypse 1590, thank you very much. Best duo in Pulse Chain. Everyone's still here. Deserve the gains. Long live Hex. Yes, thank you very much for the super chat. We appreciate you, and I know you've been here at the show a few times, so appreciate you watching and your dedication as well. So, do you have any other thoughts within the prices of the ecosystem? Any other charts you want to look at, or anything with Pulse Chain, Ewok?
I don't think so. I mean, they all look very, very similar. I know Hex had a little bit of a run. If we want to look at that one, maybe we can take a peek over here and see what Hex looks like. I am pulling up PHEX, so once it finally decides to load. Now it's looked like it has a lot more strength. I mean, because the trend line is definitely above. If you draw the same trend line that we had on Pulse Chain, Hex has definitely eclipsed that trend line. But again, it's pulling back now as well, so it did get a little bit of a head start. But other than that, just a little bit more strength maybe than Pulse Chain. But yeah, I think they all look very, very similar.
Yeah. Yep, basically so. So yeah, I think that's the best way to stay mentally stable, is just to DCA, because we have felt it. I mean, a lot of us have gotten just smacked in the face where you've made this amazing DCA, or you bought, like, the Pulse chart for most of its lifetime, the bottom was that 4 zeros in a 3 area, where right after the SEC lawsuit came down, and then it swept back down and touched those lows again the following year, or maybe that was early 2025, and at that time it was like, oh, okay, like this is the low. Well, then all of a sudden we see other weird things going on, and we get into the 2s, like you said, and then all of a sudden, apparently there is no bull market. Ethereum never does anything, and now we're going to brand new lows, and which makes me feel like all these people that are calling for like super doom 90% more drop from here for altcoins and stuff like that. I mean, they never even did anything for the last few years. I mean, I guess anything is possible, but it just seems crazy to me. Like, I don't know where that's coming from. I mean, there's not a lot of sellers left, really, You want to answer that for Hex Girl? Is anything in crypto doing well?
Nothing's doing well. It's not like we're in a vacuum here. I mean, there's really nothing that's outperforming anything at this point. So while it is ridiculous that the above comment here, nothing's doing well. So I don't know what to tell you.
I didn't even see which. He's always sitting there.
I ran out of school.
Yeah. No, the all caps. He says,
sorry.
That's okay. Okay. LOL. Someone wake me up when September ends. Wake me up when we're at least back to sack price. I don't even care anymore. This is just ridiculous. Well, okay. Honestly, yeah, I would go to sleep until then. Honestly, it's probably best just to wait it out. I mean, I remember Sami. I always love Sami's comparison when he's talking about these shitty prices. It's like you want to go do something outside. You look outside and it's raining right now. So
yeah,
wait it out. I mean, now you sit on your hand and look. I mean, it's your own prerogative. I mean, you could. If you want to DCA into these prices to try to, lower your cost basis, then that's awesome. If you don't, because you're just scared of catching a falling knife in times past, or just kind of fed up, I mean, that's honestly okay too. I totally understand it. So, yeah, I mean,
well, the problem with that though is if you did sack and only sack, you've got a long way to go to get anything. And maybe he didn't. Maybe he's put in a little bit along the way here and there, and it continues to go down like so many of us. But we have a much closer point to get back to even on those. And if you continue to do it, the rate of return. So, for example, if you bought in and it was down at the 4 zeros and a 5, and you maybe put say $1,000. Well, if you put $1,000 in at these levels at 4 zeros and a 1, it only has to go to 4 zeros and a 2 to double that. And then you've already got the money that you put in at 4 zeros and a 5 back. So you're essentially even from those two buys just by doubling now, right? Whereas if you don't do something like that, then you've got a long way to go before you can even just break even. So you have to think about those numbers like that.
Yeah. But I do understand. Yeah. If all you ever did was sack and never bought again, I understand that. I mean, that to me is like, well, good luck to you at that point. I mean, it's been over 2 years. I mean, if you didn't want to DCA at all, it's kind of on you, I think. But at the same time, for people who have, and now here we are, like nobody thought that, Ethereum and all altcoins would just shit the bed throughout the entire what we thought was a bull market. I mean, nobody thought that. And, maybe that's why it had to not happen, because everybody was positioned for the same old thing.
Sure.
Now everybody's positioned for the same old thing now, where Bitcoin's going to drop, to the bear market low in Q4 of this year and blah, 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 blah.
And maybe that doesn't happen either.
Let's hope. I mean, yeah. Really. But it'd be nice to be right for once. But yeah, I do understand for the people that have been DCing hardcore the last few years. And then now, I mean, you look around. I mean, I don't want to get way back to the original topic of the show, but like you look around, again, nobody thought we would be here by now. Like I have never seen, I think you have agreed you've never seen this Ewok. I've seen people on Twitter saying this the last few weeks. I'm not saying that it's like the deadest crypto has ever been, because obviously, I mean, there was a time when people were mining Bitcoin in their basements and stuff like that.
Right.
So I understand that. What I'm saying is, since we've gotten on this paradigm of like Ethereum, smart contracts, altcoins being a thing, the retail interest, like the apathy, I've never seen. Like, people do not care. Even the crash of 2022, things were going on. Like, people, FTX crashing, there were criminals being arrested, Mashinsky, all these other shitheads, at least people were here and cared, even though prices were going down. Right now, it's just major apathy, which, I mean, usually would be a buying opportunity, I would think. But, any other thoughts on that?
No, I agree. And I also think everything's very, very siloed, right? People have developed their communities now. And we don't really interact with the base people or the Solana people or, whatever it may be. Everybody's very, very siloed. So we're only seeing our group unless you really step outside of it, or are a part of those other communities as well. So, that makes it tough too, that when we're all banging the same drum and that's all we really hear, that's what you're going to hear and that's what you're going to feel. So
good comment from Philly here too. You mentioned a couple weeks ago, Ewok, like focusing on units right now, like not as much, to be sane also, like instead of looking at dollar value, you could call it a cope, I guess, but whatever, but talking about units that you're gaining. And Philly 84 says, none of us thought our bags could ever be this big, though. That's why I can't help but still buy little by little. And I do agree with you there. I mean, there was a number of Pulse X tokens I remember thinking I would never get to back in like 2023 or 2024, and I was like, damn it, I'm never going to amass that amount. And I've actually doubled that amount now because the opportunity has been there. So how about that line of thinking too, to just think about like, how many tokens do I have? People don't even focus on like the squid. I would say the squid and the whale. It's a movie. But like the squid, why am I forgetting them? Turtle, dolphin levels. I mean, a lot of people don't know about that or pay attention to it anymore.
Yeah, they don't. I forget what it's called too. The leagues, I guess, was what leagues. That really started with Hex, and then it kind of developed over into Pulse Chain and those tokens. But people aren't even paying attention to that. I think, was it Go Pulse that had that on their portfolio? Would put your league beside what your holdings was. And I don't know that it even does that anymore. They don't calculate a lot of stuff, so they've kind of fallen off to the wayside. Hex Scout kind of fallen off to the wayside.
And crashing out publicly.
Yeah, and publicly crashing out. It's been rough. It's been rough on people, but again, that will all change when this gets turned around. I think they'll be back with more and continue to build. Unfortunately, we only have a few builders right now that are continuing to do good things in the bear market. So we'll shout out to them.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, Liberty Swap,
KG,
and
Pateus.
Yeah, Pateus.
KG. Yeah. So
Richard Hart. Yeah. They're all killing it. I agree. Cool. All right. Well, if you guys are here and enjoying the show, do us a favor, hit the like button, subscribe to the Creed of Crypto channel. We appreciate you being here. We do this every Wednesday night at 6:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Speaking of ProveX and speaking of things that Richard Hart is working on right now, I saw him, a rare reply by him to somebody who just said like, hey, Richard Hart, what are you up to or whatever? And he just said, working basically.
Yeah.
So yes, and we got an announcement last week that app.provex.com is now showing token distributions for folks that have sacrificed for it. And I mean, I don't think this would change by the time the token launches, but as on the test net on there anyway, the token is PRVX. So $PRVX for the ProveX token. Do you have, let me go over to, there's Richard's post on it. So he says a testnet ProveX stats page has appeared that verifies the distribution. Again, it's app.provex.com /stats. You should check your ProveX balance on testnet, which you can do. Now, this would be for anybody, of course, that sacrificed directly to the ProveX sacrifice wallet. of course, like Ewok and I are familiar with Buck and Dylan, the guys from Fiat fame, started their own ProveX pool, which is the one that we contributed to. So obviously it would be their large wallet with all of our contributions. It would have to be checked against this, but that's not something for you to worry about if you didn't do that. So, but Richard says, remember, this is a test net, not mainnet. Also, someone checking it all said we've, oh yeah, I think Crypto Solve actually is who he's talking about right here. They posted, we've just been made aware that a small number of addresses don't show their ProveX balances on testnet. Richard says, we've been looking into the missing SAC that was brought to our attention, and the token balance in the associated wallet isn't visible on the testnet explorer, despite it being visible on the ProveX SAC dashboard and the official distribution list. However, once we manually query the testnet blockchain, it's apparent that the token is definitely there. This is seemingly just a UI issue in the block explorer for a small number of wallets. We urge you to check the balances of your wallets, but don't panic if it's not immediately visible. Reach out to us or the official Simplex link on the ProveX app if something is missing. We're happy to help. Side-by-side comparison of the official distribution list versus testnet token balance data directly queried on chain shows 4 discrepancies. That's pretty good considering all the wallets is sacrificed. All are related to the pool moving their balance to a contract and doing a few test distributions. So looking pretty accurate and cool that this testnet is out there. It looks like we've got the ticker officially for ProveX. So just good to see this coming together. And look, I mean, a token is not out yet, obviously, but it's growing to look more and more like kind of what our vibes were about this. And I know Buck was kind of on the same camp and a few others about this being a somewhat quick turnaround comparatively for, thinking about Pulse Chain sacrifice. I mean, it was 2 years until it came out. But I mean, that we thought that this would be a relatively quick turnaround and that the token could very well be out before ProveX itself is actually live. Now, neither one's totally there yet. We do have ProveX beta live right now. And the reason for some of our thoughts is basically just discerning some of the things that Richard has said in a video post before, where he said that, the token can still come out before the product is out. So I guess, what do you make of this? I mean, I'm really glad that we have this out there so people can check on this stuff. But what do you make of this, and how close do you think we are to ProveX, the token, and platform launching?
Well, I think the release will be almost an indication of how close Richard thinks we may be to a bottom. I hope anyway. I don't see it being too much longer, and that's kind of weird saying, well, everyone feels like Q4 is going to be all down, and this is a bear market. And so I know how he feels about releasing things at the beginning of a bear market. You get all more down only, which leads me then to the next point would be, well, he's obviously talked about this thing doing a 10,000x. There weren't that many people invested in it, so it's going to be easy to pump. There isn't a whole lot out there for people to dump either. So could we kind of start our own little run? It's possible. This could kick off something for the rest of the ecosystem. And I think that was one of the reasons why he had mentioned liquidity changing over to USDC so that things could rise and fall on their own merit. So I think that's quite important. So, I mean, if this is that close, I don't think he holds it. I think one of the reasons for the initial SEC complaint was because it took a long time. There were people out there that had invested and then waited a long time before anything was released. So I don't think we want to go down that road again. And like you said, the coin can launch before the product ever comes out. So I think it's going to be a happy medium. I still think we get it sometime in April. I think that's what I had said a few weeks ago when we were talking about it, that I think that would be an ideal launch time. We could get it sooner, but I don't see the need to. I don't think, again, you want to rush it. You definitely want people to, see what's going on with it, get it out there, get the word out. I know there's still, you know, some big bag holders that I don't feel have exhausted their resources yet, but you know, you want that to kind of happen too. So I think again, I think when you see it, it will be more of an indication of what Richard thinks the overall market, or not the overall, but what Pulse Chain market is doing. You know, if you remember his quote that he said something about, I don't care about, how did he put that? I don't care what they're doing. I care about our season or
Our
something.
season, yeah.
Which leads me to believe that this could kind of decorrelate, you know, and not really rely on what Ethereum is doing. Now, that would obviously help, but I think that, you know, there's enough backing that it could stand alone and do its own thing. So,
yeah. Yeah, I think so too. Yeah. What do you make of that? I mean, because that's been a lot of people's idea or hope, is that okay, like whenever this was originally announced back in I think it was November, whenever Richard said that there's going to be a sacrifice set, ProveX is coming, obviously it enraged people, which is
oh yeah,
the exact reason we kind of wanted to be involved. But for him to achieve crypto glory in 2021, Hex 10,000x, does the unthinkable, dominates crypto, all these things, his name's on the tip of everybody's tongue and all this stuff, to like, oh, you know, the public eye, oh, he was sued by the SEC, he's disgraced, he's on the run, like all this BS, and they don't even know that he beat the SEC and stuff like that.
Yeah.
To now just creating like somehow backing in, because it's not like he's bigger than the market. Like he didn't know clearly that Bitcoin and Ethereum were going to shit the bed, mainly Ethereum this last couple of years. Somehow he's just backed into this perfect set of circumstances where he's completely hated and thought of as a scammer again. So it's kind of great, honestly, like if you believe, because this thing raised $16.5 million of outsider money, you know, which is insane. What Pulse and Pulse X raised, what, nearly $1 billion?
Oh yeah,
and
it was over $1 billion.
This is pennies compared to that. So I guess I would ask you, I mean, like the fact that, you know, it could be easy to pump and all that. What do you think the chances are that it could help pull up the rest of the ecosystem? Because that's what I think this move has been by Richard. Like maybe there was always going to be a sacrifice for ProveX, and it was going to be, you know, he expected the inverse where, okay, everybody's going to be flush with cash like they were the last bull market. Obviously the exact opposite happened. So it's like, well, let's make lemonade out of lemons here the best I can. We'll have to try, like, here's my plan B, which is pulling ourselves up by our own bootstraps and trying this way. Like if the market's not going to bend to me, I'll have to do it the other way around, you know, while assuming and hoping obviously that Ethereum ever goes up again too. But yeah, I mean, what do you make of that? I mean, do you think the plan is like get this thing pumping, draw attention to the chain, and get the whole ecosystem to come up? Because it's not just ProveX. I mean, Liberty Swap is opening all these avenues too. So what do you think the plan is?
Well, I think it's a combination of a lot of that stuff. I believe that because of the small turnout, it's believers only. So this one may not. I mean, you're going to have some dumpers. You're going to have people that got in just to sell the bonus that they got. I believe that fully. And, you know, I think there were people that got in the pool that did that just for that reason, to sell the extra off and make a little something off of it right away. So, but the majority of the other people, I think, are the true believers, right? I mean, I really feel that that's what it is. The ones that really do believe that there is something to this. And you could tell by the difference in amount. Like you said, there was over $1 billion in the other ones. So this is minute compared to those, and will be much easier to buy up the sell supply, the things that people are trying to dump, to either hold the price and make it run and get eyes back on it. That's kind of what I was saying. You know, whenever I think Richard's doing this as trying to time the bottom for Pulse Chain anyway, you know, we can only go so low. I mean, and before you've got to make a move, and I think this was probably all part of his timing whenever that happens, and to get eyes on this and get things and people back excited about it. So that's the way I feel. That's what I think is happening. And I think when it launches, it's going to definitely draw eyes. So it's a good thing.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm excited for it. Well, last question on it from me. When this thing does launch, which really could be imminent, I know Buck over at their Telegram, like he thinks it's happening this week, like, or this weekend or something. Like they got their railways set up for the ProveX sacrifice. All right, I'm going to go ahead and ban him because he won't shut up. But Buck basically, they're getting their railways set up for the ProveX pool site as far as like, hey, if you decide how you want to receive your tokens, stuff like that. So he believes it's imminent. I think he even set up a Spaces on Twitter in a couple days to, discuss where we're at with this. When this does launch, what do you think the initial effect will be? And I guess I mean it for the ProveX token and for the rest of the ecosystem, because all kinds of people that didn't sacrifice for this, of course, are saying, because they didn't sacrifice for it, that, well, I'll catch it on the 80% dip and stuff like that. Treating it as if it is Pulse or Pulse X when it's the inversion of that. I mean, there was nowhere near the same amount of money raised, and people are not flush with cash or anything. So people saying that. So I guess first, do you think we see that? Is there going to be some colossal dip on this thing right out of the gate? Or contrarily, could people start, like we've seen how things go at launch and weird shit happens. So people start to ape into ProveX and we see Pulse Chain ecosystem prices go down 50% because we might as well prepare for that. Speaking to the dry powder DCA thing we were talking about earlier, you never know. What do you think could happen there?
Well, I do think we'll see a pullback. I don't think it'll be as huge as Pulse or Pulse X. Again, it's because nobody has that kind of ammunition. And I think there's going to be easier ways to set up limit orders to buy certain prices and buy those dips when they happen immediately to support the price. I do think, okay, let's say we launch at the same rate, okay, because you did get 10,000 for every dollar that in the first 5 days. I think that'll be target launch ideal price. However, when these launch, they will have zero value. That's the goal. So there will be a ratio trade probably up to make it that, and then it will pull back. I think a lot of people again will hold this time, but I know there are some that got into the pool to get that 2.6x or whatever it was bonus. So it just won't be as dramatic, and I think it'll be a lot shorter lived because again, less ammunition to sell.
Right.
So that's how I see it. I do see a small pullback. Where it goes to, though, if it launches at 3 zeros and a 1, which would be your 10,000 to 1, probably pull back to 4 zeros 9 something maybe, and then take off from there. Like I don't see it going too badly. Like I don't see it pulling back too bad. So
plus, if you wanted to be involved with it, I mean, the type of moves you're going to have to make so fast, not knowing what kind of ratio you're swapping and stuff. Like if you wanted to be exposed to it, like the move was to just sacrifice to be safe. I mean, even if there is a slight drop or something like that for a small period of time, are you going to execute it the right way? You don't know that drop is guaranteed. And after all, I mean, it only raised 16.5 million, which is awesome. So I'm really excited for it. I think it could mean a lot of interesting things for the ecosystem. I wouldn't be surprised to see some sort of maybe sell off with the main tokens, just for people that maybe didn't sacrifice. That there's always going to be FOMO when anything launches. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, and we know that there was a sell off whenever it was announced that they weren't taking the core tokens for the sacrifice.
Right.
Yeah.
But do you think they'll? So, what's your thought? Do you think they'll trade them at these levels to buy into this?
I think some people will. I mean, I have no idea what it would do as far as ecosystem prices, but yeah, I would think that people will probably sell out to try to buy into Proof X because they didn't buy it. Like even the people, I don't want to name their names, but people that have left the ecosystem and have totally pivoted and shit on Richard Hart, they're probably going to FOMO into Proof X whenever it comes out, just because that's what they are. They're reactionary dipshits. So I think that they'll just basically come right back in and sell their I don't want to say what token I was going to say because then I would reveal who I'm talking about. But yeah, I think they'll just sell stuff to try to get back into Proof X basically. So I don't know. We'll see. I mean, maybe I'm being aggressive with thinking the ecosystem could drop 50% from wherever we're at. Right. You know, maybe there's an announcement, hey, Proof X goes live on X date, and Pulse Chain ecosystem rallies 30 to 50% on that news, and then there's like a sell-off after it or something. Who knows? I don't know. We'll see. But either way, long term, I'm really excited about it. The fact that it is on Pulse Chain and what it's going to lead to. So good stuff.
And it could be on other chains too. We don't know. You know, there could be other plans to stabilize it onto ETH as well, or, you know, Base or whatever it might be. You know, you got to think about that too. Once it develops and hits a floor, do you launch it at that price on another network? So, you know, there's a lot of possibilities that are out there.
Yeah. Interesting ride for sure. So we will see when Proof X comes out, but I tend to agree with you. I would be shocked if it was not by like June. Honestly, I'd be shocked if I agree with you. If it's not by the end of April, I'd be pretty surprised. So
yeah.
And maybe even sooner than that, maybe before April here. So awesome stuff coming from Proof X. Let's probably wrap up with this. I think you said you had something you want to talk about, but we have this this huge Hex stake is coming due. I think it's this week or within a week at this point now. So one of the gigantic OA Hex stakes, I think it's one of the ones that was just made over the last year whenever we saw a bunch of inflation cuts across the ecosystem with the ink inflation being slashed. Again, these mega huge Hex stakes. So Hex inflation came down. So PulseNet ecosystem posted a couple of days ago, Hex countdown, the beast awakens in just 10 days. So from this point, it's probably only about 5 days. That legendary $33 billion Hex stake, ID 9144418 from that wallet, ends on March 17th. Oh, there you go. Today's what? Okay, 6 days. So March 17th, 26. Yeah, the one only Richard Hart could possibly hold, supposedly. Nobody else moved supply like this. 11 days left at that time. 6 now, ticking down fast. What's the play? Mega restake for insane longer-term yields, partial unstake and liquidity flood, something wild we haven't seen yet. Community, spill your theories. What do you think RH has planned? And will it pump shake Hex when it I don't know what he meant there. When it unlocks, drop your takes below. So yeah, one of the huge stakes from the OA that we saw coming due. So I DM'd you right away when I saw this. What are your thoughts on it? What could be done with it? And interesting that the first one of these is coming due.
Well, it's interesting that it has over 1 million T-shares on this one stake. That's just crazy to me. I think it will hold. I don't think it will unstake right away. However, I believe that someone in the community will end it, and they will do an end, basically a good accounting on it. And what that does in itself will put those T-shares back into the system. Okay. Mm-hmm. So I don't think anybody will feel like, let's see if Richard burns it, right? Let's see if he rewards all the holders, because that process takes forever for it to happen to really amount to anything. It would take 2 weeks before it even started to burn itself. And at that point, those 1,053,000 T-shares are just sitting there idle. So I believe that somebody does the good accounting function on it and puts those T-shares back in the system, because that kind of forces a reaction from him. All right, what are you going to do? Are you going to leave the yield higher? Because this will definitely see an increase in hex per T share that you have because you're losing 1 million from the system. That makes everybody's piece of pie kind of increase. Yes, anybody can do the good accounting on it. So I remember at one point there was a bunch of stakes that were out there that were burning, that had a lot of T-shares, and one of the community members named John Wick spent a lot of money on Ethereum to end those stakes and reward everybody essentially with more T-shares. So I don't remember how I don't remember how many T-shares it increased the pool by, but it was a substantial number of stakes. So that was done by John Wick. Anyway, I see that happening very similar. A good accounting, somebody will run it, which will increase the payout for everybody. Then what's the next move, right? Do you let the yield kind of continue? Do you let that build? And do you bring some interest back to hex staking? We all know that when you have a lot of hex staked earning yield, the price goes up. Well, when there's not that much yield, less people stake, more people sell. It's a chain reaction. So I feel like this could be a short-term reward to get people to stake their hex again, or kind of monitor it and see are they gonna are you gonna enable a bunch of short-term monthly rolling stakes again and people just dump it, or are you gonna kind of entice people to do some longer stakes and to get some longer yields? And again, I think it's going to be we'll kind of wait and see from that entity to does it restake and reclaim those T-shares again and cut people's yield because people can't behave and they just do short rolling stakes and then dump the yield and do it over and over and over again? Or does it entice people to lock up some longer stakes so that this price can actually do something?
Mm-hmm. It's very interesting. Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to ask you is what are the chances that, the T-shares go back into the ecosystem? And because you're right, the whole effort was obviously to slash the hex inflation, to stop the short-term huge stakes. Like you didn't really want that going on. So do you think that is allowed now to where there will be hex staking coming back in? Because yeah, I mean, it's especially because nobody really knows where this market is going. And, I get it. Like hex is supposed to be a long-term thing and 5.555, not that everybody has to stake 15 years or anything like that. And honestly, so many people are gun shy with doing anything super long-term in crypto just because of what we've seen over the last few years. And then you don't even get a bull market out of it. So I understand that. But even if you looked at it from the perspective of like, well, okay, maybe I'll just 10% of my overall Pulse Chain portfolio might be hex staking, for example, and looking long term, maybe 20%, whatever it is you decide to do. But do you think whatever the action is that's taken by the OA would be, okay, let's forgive a little bit of this again so people can actually earn some interest on their T-shares here, even if there are short-term dumpers. And I got to think the short-term dumpers, that there are less and less of them because they've been selling for years now,
Right. Yeah, people don't have those kind of bags to do those large rolling stakes anymore. It doesn't pay out. That's why they parted with their, I mean, obviously you can tell by the price that people got out and sold a lot of that off. And they don't have the ammunition to do those anymore. So that's a possibility too. And like I said, that's why I said I think it's a kind of a wait and see how people play out. Do people start staking longer to capture some of these T-shares that have now kind of increased the pool a little bit and made yield exciting again? So I think we wait and see, but those are basically your options. The other option of him letting it bleed to reward the stakers, I really don't see that happening. I mean, you're talking 33 billion principal. I have no idea what this has even yielded along the way, but I can probably guess hundreds of millions
Yeah.
of hex along the way. So
Right.
what they started 1932. I don't even remember what day that was. I think we're at like 22 or 2300 now.
So over a year or so.
So yeah. So I mean, yeah, it's probably yielded a couple hundred million anyway. So
yeah. Question from Viper, and I'm going to be honest, I haven't checked T-share rates in a while. I'm guessing this is higher than it's been lately. He said, Ewok question, why was yesterday's T-share total 3.461? I don't know if you even knew that, Ewok, but I mean, it's been like 1 point something for a while, hasn't it? Or am I wrong?
yeah, there were probably some penalties. There were some, I know there were people looking at trying to get their stakes off of the Staker app.
Oh, yeah.
And I saw Giga had put out a little contract or something to allow them to access them. And I know there were some early end stakes of people just trying to get them off of there. That could be it. It was down lower, and I know that is up, but I don't know the exact reason. I didn't look into it enough. But it's penalties, basically. That's essentially what it is. People either end staking, causing penalties, but that's why it went up so much.
Okay. Yeah. Well, it's going to be interesting. I can't wait to see what is done with this. But yeah. And also, yeah, the idea of the OA just letting it not bleed, but not end staking it right away, and then see what somebody does to force the hand. So we see, kind of what does occur.
Because they'll have 2 weeks. They'll have 2 weeks to do something. But honestly, I mean, it's on Pulse Chain. It's on both chains, I believe. I'm pretty certain that was done on both chains. And the only being a year, it shouldn't cost that much to end it, even on Ethereum. So I think it would benefit everybody to have somebody go in and do the good accounting right away and not wait to see what they do.
Right. Yeah, that would be very interesting for sure. Well, good stuff. Yeah, we'll see what does come out of this. Did you have anything else you wanted to leave off on quick?
No, I did it earlier. I was gonna give a shout out to the people that were continuing to build, and we kind of did it, earlier. Again, we'll do it again, but Pateus, Liberty Swap, you got KG with Internet Money. I think he's over 115,000 downloads now, across all platforms, Android, Apple, and Google Store. So yeah, I mean, just shout out to those guys. They're continuing to build, and probably not the ideal time, but they deserve some credit for it.
I totally agree. Yeah, the people that are just standing up, like you can see who's left over from the ecosystem, and how easy it was for some people to bail. There was a really interesting stream last week that Cultivate Crypto, Charlie and Miguel hosted, that had on. I sent it to you guys to check out, and obviously some people were a bit frustrated with that stream if you're a fan of Pulse Chain, because it was kind of bogarted by one particular person that kept saying the same stuff over and over again. And I don't know that they were the best person to be on that stream, but it was basically like Money Gang Crypto, B Roots, Fast Abdul, who I thought in his short time of being allowed to talk was amazing. A Wild SJ talking about the marketing stuff. It was basically just like KG was on there. There were some PTGC guys and stuff like that. I think it's a worthwhile stream. It was kind of like a state of Pulse Chain type of thing, just to get perspectives on both sides. If you can make it through the first, half hour of what was being said. Apparently, I guess the beginning is the particularly tough part, but I don't even know where I was going with that. I mean, they did acknowledge a lot of the builders on there too, and I think that's what's so awesome is like everybody you just mentioned, but then I just said too, a Wild SJ and all the people that are volunteering. Doing the tablets, which obviously there's been a lot of starting and stopping and stuff like that with those based on market conditions and whatever else, but people are busting their ass out there for sure, and things are being built. And it's like, as tough as these times are, and as much as it feels like you're getting kicked in the teeth, there's all these fundamental things that just look so good for the long term. And yes, did a lot of people think, oh, I'm going to be rich by now at this juncture in 2026 that we're here in 2020, 2021 at the end of the bull cycle? Yeah, but things have just not panned out that way, and I think it's mainly a result of macro conditions, which likely will not last forever. So, will we ultimately get to the goal that we're all trying to get to in terms of, our investments, the freedom that we're looking for in life? I think that's what most of us are after, is not having to trade our time for money at a job and stuff like that anymore. And we all may get there. Maybe it just won't look exactly the path that you thought. I mean, clearly it already isn't. So that's how those things do happen sometimes. So didn't know if you have any other points on that, Ewok.
No, I really don't. I think, like I said, power to those people. Hang in there. That's about it.
Yeah. Just glad to. That's one thing. We could be somewhere where it actually was abandoned, but instead we're somewhere where, even though it hurts like hell for sure, and the bags are down, Richard Hart beat the SEC in court and has a precedent-winning lawsuit. He's building new things and launching a new product very, very soon. He's clearly active and doing things. We have people busting their ass building things. It could be much, much worse, even though it seems rough because of Bryce right now. So, well, hey, this has been a great show. Shout out chat. I mean, even though I guess the X stream wasn't working tonight, you guys have been awesome. So Viper Styles, Checks My Pulse, The Rat, Valiant Low Key, of course, Philly. We had Hex Girl, RH Max checked in, Tam Checks My Pulse, of course, Pulse Beats. Oh, apparently he made a new track for us. We got to go check out after the show. Yeah, so I'll go check that out. Hex Wizard. I saw DJ Cryptomatic, our new friend, stepped in here tonight. So shout out to him. But yeah, appreciate all you guys. Love all you guys. We will be here every Wednesday. Should be back next Wednesday at 6:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So for Crypto Ewok, this has been Bacon Bits Boy Crypto right here on the Creed of Crypto. We'll see you guys.
See y'all.